Hello everyone, this is the last lesson of Unit 8 on factoring completely. We're going to learn a few different methods, or not learn new methods, but combine different methods of factoring. So for the first example, it says to factor out a common binomial factor. So this is a process you've already been used to when you learn the AC method. So we technically just have two different terms here, this term and this term. But within the terms, they both have a factor of the quantity x plus 4. So what we're going to do is factor out that x plus 4, and then we're left with 2x minus 3. In part B, we have a similar situation. We have this factor, this term, and they both have a factor of quantity y minus 2. So we can factor it out, and then we'll write what's left, 3y squared plus 5. And then for the ones that are circled, you can kind of ignore that little note at the top, complete on Polaris. That was something for last year. But for part C, you guys can go ahead and do this for your Ed puzzle questions. This is x times x minus 2 plus x minus 2. Okay, so go ahead and try to solve this question. So we'll factor out the x minus 2, and then the result would be x and then plus 1, because there's technically a 1 right here. That's how you would write that question. All right, here we're going to factor by grouping. So basically, if you have 4 terms, this is for when you have 4 terms, and this is like the AC method when you split it up into 4 terms. So you would break up this group and this group, and then you can factor out an x squared from the first group, and we're left with x plus 3. From the second group, we can factor out a 5, and we're left with x plus 3. So what you get in parentheses should be the same. You can factor it out, and then write x squared plus 5. All right, for this question, once again, we just split it up into two different groups. We can factor out a y from the first group, and we're left with y plus 1. And then from the second group, we can factor out an x, so we'll say plus x, and then you're left with y plus 1. Factor out the y plus 1, and then you're left with y plus x in parentheses. Y plus x. All right, the other question that you were supposed to answer would be a to the third plus 3a squared plus a plus 3. So go ahead and take a minute, pause the video, and try to answer this question. So break it up into 2 groups. You'll factor out the a squared and then write a plus 3. And then here you would factor out 1 and then write a plus 3. And then factor out the a plus 3 and write a squared plus 1 remaining. All right, a few other of these questions. Let's see. So for this example, notice that it's not in standard form. You can, and so in order to factor it, we'll write it in standard form. So y to the third, and then we'll write minus 3x to the second, and then we'll do plus 2x, and then we'll do minus 6 last. So now we can split it up into 2 groups, factor out x squared and write x minus 3. Here we can factor out 2, and we're left with x minus 3. Factor out the x minus 3, and then you're left with x squared plus 2. All right, so a question like this, you might wonder how we would write that in standard form. The only thing I would do is I might put the 2y over here to combine the y's, and then do the second 2 terms combining the x's. So we'll do y squared plus 2y plus 2x plus yx. So factor out y from the first group, and you're left with y plus 2. Here we can factor out an x, and we're left with 2 plus y. So y plus 2 and 2 plus y are still the same thing, but we'll just keep it as y plus 2, and then we're left with y plus x. Okay, so the next kind of example is where before factoring, you can factor out a GCF. So here, I can before I try to factor this into two binomial factors, I can factor out a 4x. And then we're left with x squared minus 11x, and then 96 divided by 4 is 24. So plus 24. All right, so then keep the 4x here. I can factor this into two groups, put x in the first spot. So this is like normal trinomial factoring. And factors of 24 that add to negative 11, well, both of the terms are going to be negative, because two negatives will make a positive. And I would choose 3 and 8 as my factors to combine to 11. So that would be the equation factored completely. For this question, this looks like a difference of squares, but it's not, because you have the 2 and the 50 are not perfect squares. So what we're going to do first is factor out the GCF of 2h squared. And then we're left with 25h squared. And then here we're left with minus 1. So now this is a difference of squares. So we can factor it. We'll keep the 2h squared. We can factor it as 5h plus 1 times 5h minus 1. And that would be factored completely. All right. And then there's one more. It says 3x to the third minus 12x. So I will let you try this one on your own. So what you're going to do first is factor out the 3x. And then you'll write x squared minus 4. And then 3x, you can factor this as a difference of squares as x plus 2 times x minus 2. And that would be the final answer. All right. So a couple more examples where you're solving then. So for this equation, it says solve, and then we want to factor to solve. So to solve, I need one side to be equal to 0. So I'm going to add the 24x onto this side. So then we'll have 3x to the third plus 18x squared plus 24x equals 0. So the first thing I would want to do is factor out, I see that these all have a GCF of 3x. I'm going to factor it out, and then we're left with x squared plus 9x, and then plus 6. Oh, I'm sorry, that would be 8. And this would not be 9. That would be 6, and this would be 8. All right, so then after that, we're not done factoring. We could factor this, because it's a trinomial that doesn't need a C method. So we could just set up your two parentheses, and then put x in the first spot, and then factors of 8 that add to 6 would be 2 and 4. So plus 2 plus 4. So now we have, when solving then, you have 3 different factors. You have this, this, and that. So 3x is going to give us an answer of 0. X plus 2 is going to give us an answer of negative 2. And then x plus 4 is going to give us an answer of negative 4. So that would be your final answer. And then in the question, it would tell you to factor it first and then to find the zeros. Okay, and then not sure what happened to my other questions. I think because those were the ones you were supposed to try on your own. So we'll do w to the third. We'll do one more maybe. Minus 8w squared plus 16w. Okay, so this is a similar one where you would factor out just a w in this case. You'd have w squared minus 8w and then plus 16. So I can factor this trinomial now as w. Factors of 16 that add to 8 would be not to, 4 and 4. That's right. So minus 4 and then w minus 4. So this would give us w equals 0, and these two would give us both w equals 4. So one thing that I do encourage you to try, though, is to type this into Desmos and just see what it looks like. And you'll see that the graph crosses the x-axis at 0, and then it just touches it at 4. So it goes kind of like this. It goes like that, down, crosses at 0, and then it touches it at 4, and then it goes back down. That's called a cubic function. Right, and then one more example. We have x to the third minus 25x. So here I would factor out an x, and then you're left with x squared minus 25. And then this is a difference of squares, so you would factor it as x plus 5 times x minus 5. And then your solutions would be 0, negative 5, and positive 5. All right, so that's the end of this lesson. Hope you guys have a great day.